Or if you would do the honors of opening us up.
All standing, please. Let us pray. Eternal and gracious God, we're so wonderfully blessed to be before your presence tonight. God, we realize that you're everywhere at the same time, so we don't have to waste time inviting you because you're already here. But God, we're praying that we sense your presence in the room. Allow us to feel it, God. Allow us to honor you for being God and God all by yourself. We're praying that you bless all those that will participate in these proceedings. Allow your perfect will to be enacted, God, that you would get all honor and glory from our doings. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Let's pledge. Ready? Pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You may be seated.
Thank you, Pastor. Everybody's mics are on. Let's go ahead and check that. All right. Thank you for that. We'll call to order. Roll call. Councilman London.
Present.
Councilwoman Cuellar.
Here.
Councilman Box. Councilman Sims.
Present.
And myself here as well. First order of business, if we could get a motion on the approval of the minutes from the regular city council meeting held on May 6th of 2025.
Council President Spivey, before we get the approval, I was wanting to mention on the consent agenda, there were some items that I abstained on and other items that I did not abstain on. But it's showing me as abstaining on all of them. Can we make that correction?
Council President Spivey, as I said last week, there is only one vote for that, and so it's either a rise or fall on all items, and therefore, if there were items, then they should have been pulled off and actually voted individually. So that is correct, that they all should have been a no.
All right.
Okay.
Well, one of the points I wanted to make is we had something similar that happened in early 2021, where there were many items, and I had voted. It was a lump sum. Either you vote on all of these 10, yes, or if you vote no, it's no on all of them. We had to come back the next council meeting to fix that. Can we fix this? Because I did not intend to abstain on all of the items that were on the consent agenda, only some of them, not all of them.
That's why I said that then.
2, 3, 4.
That's why I said that after
5.
that vote. So,
Legal, what's your
because-
recommendation?
I mean, technically, consent agenda has one vote. Otherwise, they should be individual items. So that's why I wanted to make that clear after the vote was actually taken, and I said that. So
If
that
I
was
may
why.
respond, this is one of the reasons that I've asked that we not have consent items on our agenda, but that when we do have our discussions, that we agree, let's put this on consent. No, I'm going to abstain on this. That's one of the reasons that it's not a good idea for us to have items on our agenda already on consent because we haven't even decided on it, and yet it's on our agenda. So I'm going to ask that we not do this in the future because these kinds of things happen. And that was not my intent to abstain on all of the consent agenda items. My intent was to abstain on some of them.
My feedback on the consent agenda is, even though that is a recommendation, we've pulled things off consent before and put them in the regular. So it's a recommendation. It's not anything that's hard and fast. I don't have a problem with the recommendation of the consent agenda. If we need to pull something out of it during deliberation, we can always do so. Now, in regards to going back, and so you're talking about you want to go back and revisit every item that was on consent from the last council meeting. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, just to go in and fix that because this happened in early 2021 where it was an all or nothing.
I remember.
And we had to go back and fix that because that really wasn't the proper way of doing it. And this here also and I apologize to legal because I was not clear on consent agenda. If you abstain, that means you abstain on all of them. And that should have been, in my opinion, it should have been a lot clearer because I did not intend to abstain on all of them, just some of them.
Legal, do I even have a choice in the matter? Because respectfully, Councilwoman Cuellar,
Yes.
your intent, I'm just kind of going over that right now. But
Okay.
do I have a choice on this? Do I need to take a poll from the dais as far as if we want to revisit those items? My point is these items are done. We've already started conducting business around some of these items and things of that nature. I don't want to revisit an item and a vote go, maybe not that it would, but a precaution would be a vote go a different way on something that's already been enacted and put into place. I appreciate her intent and saying, "Hey, this wasn't what I wanted to do," but at the same time, I don't want to rewind the tape per se, and business that we're enacting on from these past resolutions, I don't want to mess that up, for lack of better terms. I mean, do I have a choice?
You know, the way to do it would be to actually go back through each individual item and actually have an individual vote on that, and they would become a resolution, in and of themselves, I would say, an A almost, so, I mean, it could certainly be done, but there would be a lot to it.
If I may, Council President Spivey, I agree with what you're saying. I don't want us to have to go back and reintroduce these items because you're absolutely right. Some of these we've already started, but just in the future, if we can make it clear when we've got items on consent, let's move them to the regular agenda if there's going to be an abstention,
Fair,
so that we don't have to cross this again in the future.
fair,
Okay.
understood.
Thank you.
If you have a particular item that's on your mind, if during the approval of the minutes, if you would like to have stated how you would have voted on particular items, you're welcome to do so for the record. Is that
Yes.
fair?
Yes.
Okay.
I make a motion that we approve the minutes with item number 1 with my abstention, item number 5 where I abstained, item number 6 I abstained, item 22 I abstained, item 25 I abstained, and items 26, 27, and 28 I abstained.
Was that the intent? I mean, is that,
The intent was an abstention, not a no vote, but because it was on consent, it's either yes or no.
well, I'm just, in the approval of the minutes.
Just for the
I didn't know
record,
if that was
Councilman
what-
Sims,
Okay, I was surprised.
that's all it is.
I just want to make sure we're on the same page.
Yeah,
That
I
would
was
act-
giving her the ability just to go ahead and on the record say what we're not redoing anything.
not.
I was just giving her the ability to, at least for the record, say where she landed on those particular items, just so that her conscience can be clear.
So just to be clear, we're not actually changing the
No.
minutes as they are adopted.
we are
I mean,
not.
as they are presented
Presented.
now.
So I concur with what our council president said.
Okay.
Thank you, Council President.
Thank you. We have a motion on the floor. Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. Next item, if we could go ahead and get a motion for the bills.
I have one comment to make on our council expense approval report. When I was going through our P-card expenditures, I noticed a P-card charge for over $10,000, but I didn't see it on our council expense approval report. And my question is, was it recorded? This is Mayor Stewart's P-card is over $10,000, and I did not see it on the P-card. I'd like to know if it was recorded, because we are approving this expense approval report. I could not find it, so I'd like to know if it was recorded.
I'm going to defer to the clerk. I'm familiar with what she's talking about.
I know we allocated all the funds throughout the department, so I would have to look through here.
Yeah, I didn't see it, and the reason that I'm a little concerned about it is because there was a P-card expenditure that was charged to Mayor Stewart's P-card, but it's not shown on our council expense approval report. Therefore, it doesn't accurately reflect what happened.
It was one lump sum on his credit card.
Yes.
And allocated across the department.
Right,
So it's
but
in all of this.
but it doesn't accurately reflect what happened. There was a P-card charge, right? You're saying that it was spread throughout the departments.
Because instead of each department paying, he paid, for the whole thing, and then we allocated.
I understand what you're saying, but it doesn't accurately reflect what happened. There was a charge on the card, and the facts are misrepresented on our council expense approval report. That total amount should be shown on our council expense approval report for admin, because he falls under admin. And not saying that this is nefarious. It's not nefarious today, but it's misrepresenting the facts. There was a card that was given, and it was charged to one card, and our expense approval report does not show that. And we need to record what actually happened, not putting them. She said they put them in different departments. That doesn't accurately reflect what's happening. And generally, accounting principles were established to ensure that we are providing accurate accounting.
So to be fair, clerk is assuring us that
Yes.
those expenses are in there. So from a number standpoint, I think we're good. City clerk will get with you and break down how that 10,000 was spread out
Because
amongst the various
that amount
departments.
needs to be shown on our council expense approval report.
Well, she doesn't want it. She doesn't need to have $10,000 worth of different allocated line items and a $10,000 because that
No.
would be a 20.
No.
You know,
Again, generally.
I know what you're
accepted
asking for.
principles,
I understand.
You've got to accurately report, this was a debit charge.
Yep.
On this card, it's got to be shown on our expense approval report.
Are we good
Because
with the
we're
number?
not accurately representing it, okay?
Right.
We need to avoid doing that in the future because our books don't look good. For instance,
Noted.
okay,
We'll say noted.
thank you.
Yep. With that being said, are you good with the number? Does anybody want to make a
I'm going to
motion?
abstain for that reason.
Okay,
Thank you.
copy that. Do we have a motion for the approval of the bills?
We'll make a motion to pay the bills in the amount of $502,849.46.
Second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, with one abstention. Thank you very much. Let's see here. The mayor is not with us tonight, so we'll go ahead and roll into our council reports. I will go ahead and start us this time. We've recently had a new class graduate from the Citizen Engagement Academy. I would like everybody to come up to the front. I understand that y'all have a speaker that's going to kind of lead the charge, so if y'all would come on up. You think we're just going to let you have t-shirts and not drag you up to the front of the dais? I mean, come on.
Well, I've been voluntold, so we are very proud members of the Citizen Engagement Institute that just completed its sessions. And one of the things that we learned while we were there is that the city does a really great job. All the departments work together and make the city what it is. And that was important because I worked for 2 municipalities that didn't do that well. And so I'd like to say that I'm very proud to be a member of Irondale because Irondale does work well and it makes the community really great.
Thank you. Perfect. Thank you all very much. Thank you. And I got the opportunity to attend the dinner for the graduation ceremony. It was the first one I'd ever been to, and that was a ton of fun. And I think I'm going to have to try to make that a regular thing because I really, really, really enjoyed learning. So when as they go through the graduation, they get to do what Mayor referred to as their 30-second elevator speech. But for lack of better terms, they just get to come up there and just kind of talk about what they all learned. And everybody had something different, and it was just really, really cool to see that the value that this class provides to our citizens and stuff like that. So I encourage anybody to get on board with the next class who hasn't done so, and enjoy your time. It was a really, really, really neat event. So I'm glad for all the volunteers that are now coming into the portal and everything like that as far as future events are concerned. So thank y'all so much. I'll go ahead and pass my time on to Councilman Sims.
Good evening, everybody.
Good
First
evening.
of all, I'd like to thank the city clerk, Marcy, and I think Kenton. I noticed that the new district map was still not showing on the website, I think last night, and emailed, and they worked over the morning. And I think by this afternoon, finally got the updated map showing. So if you go online now, it shows the current zoning maps, not zoning, district, council district maps. Second, mayor's not here, so I was on the mayor's team. We won our basketball game versus Councilor London's team. It was very close for most of the game. I'll also say that I'm not in shape like I used to be. 5 minutes of game time is a long time. I feel like I'm still out of breath. But it was a good game, a lot of fun. I'll be in a lot better shape next year. Might actually score. We'll see. But it was a lot of fun. So congrats to everybody that played, everyone that came out. It was a good time. And I guess the last thing I'd like to just make a statement about the recent Zoning Board of Adjustment meeting. So as many of you know, the board voted 3-2 in favor of the 2 requested variances, but that fell short of the 4 votes required for approval. So both of the variances were denied. This wasn't a vote on whether the project could proceed. It was a vote on 2 very specific variances. One would have allowed a 14% grade on the entrance drive, which had already been approved by the fire department, and the same board had granted to the Heights development a few years prior. The second one to allow some of the 1-bedroom units below the 800 square foot minimum required by code, which is consistent with modern housing trends. The developer brought forward what I believe was an unusually thoughtful and environmentally responsible plan. Instead of building the 450 units allowed by the code, they proposed only 320, or 71% of what they could have proposed. And they committed to preserving nearly 23 acres of natural land, almost half of the 51-acre site. Excuse me, it's cold in here. Including a wide buffer between the development and the Cahaba River. But now, with those variances denied, that plan is off the table. What happens next is pure math. The developer still has every legal right to build, but in order to make the numbers work under stricter constraints, the unit count will increase, most likely closer to 400 units or more. They'll have to increase the building footprint, and grading will have to be much more aggressive to meet that 10% road grade requirement by the code. 18 feet of elevation difference will be needed to be addressed. Imagine taking the equivalent of 2 stories off the top of a ridge. What was once 23 protected acres, including about 20 nearest the river, will now most likely be disturbed. This means significantly larger amount of trees removed, significantly more ridgetop removed, more diesel engines running for thousands of additional hours to move all this dirt and remove all these trees, and less of the forest, less of what we all say we wanted to protect. If the Cahaba could weep, I believe it would. Not because development is happening, but because this community turned away from a plan that sought to protect it. It was quite honestly a missed opportunity, a win-win that turned into a lose-lose. We had a developer who spent over 2 years in significant capital trying to present a plan that balanced growth with conservation, and instead of rewarding that good faith, the meeting became a forum for broad opposition to the project itself, opposition that had absolutely nothing to do with the 2 items on the agenda for that board. Let me be clear. The Freshwater Land Trust supported the project design. So did an independent expert from UAB that was brought by those who opposed. That support was not bought or pressured. It was based on facts, on science, on environmental evaluation, and the accusations made against them after the meeting were unfounded, beneath the dignity of this process, and highly unprofessional. And in the end, the project will move forward, but now it will likely come at a greater cost to our land, to the river, and to the public's trust in how we manage growth and conservation together. So I ask that we all reflect not just on what happened, but on why. Because next time we may not have a developer willing to go to these lengths, we may not be offered another win-win. Thank you.
Sir, does that conclude your report?
That concludes my report.
Councilman Box?
Thank you, Council President. Good evening, everybody. I'm glad you're here. Councilwoman Quayler and I had the opportunity to attend the Alabama League of Municipalities yearly meeting this year, which was very informative. We kind of went different directions to cover more ground in meetings. They had a lot of educational classes, so got a lot of chefs to share about the Alabama Department of Veterans Administration, something that I wasn't very up to date on. But if you're a veteran, not only do you have, your U.S. government veterans benefits available, but Alabama themselves. So, and there's some things that they're trying to do and build into the cities, which are exciting. We also took part in a couple of different roundtable discussions with other municipalities of how those municipalities allow their citizens to engage at council meeting, which was good. I didn't realize that many councils don't allow the citizens to engage at all, which was informative to me. Then there are some that actually give a little more time for it. So something we can all share at another time. They also had one of the most important things was the speaker at the very beginning of the meeting, which was near and dear to my heart. Talked about how we talk to each other, how we talk to each other on social media, how we talk to each other in chambers from the dais, how we respect each other's humanity and respect each other's opinions, even when differing, that we can always be kind and courteous and we can always be respectful of another person. Those are the things that was very, very near and dear to me. So I'd like for us to look into some of that with the time we have remaining. Thank you, Council President.
All right, thank you. Councilwoman Quayle?
Yes, good evening, everyone, and thank you so much for being here tonight. Piggybacking on Councilman Box, we did try to cover, there were concurrent sessions that were being held, and the first session that we attended was very well done, where he was talking about dialogue and respect, and it also, he broke it into our residents, the public. You have the devout. You have those that are, I forget the term, but I took pictures of all of the slides, and they were 4 different groups, and it had to do with how you respond to the residents. It's to be respectful. It's to listen to them. It's to respond to their questions that they may have as a means of having that clarity that is essential when you've got communication going on. That was a wonderful event. I did record it. I took several pictures of the slide presentation he made. I will share that later because we've got rain coming and I don't want to hold up. We also, the roundtable discussion, but before I get to that, there were one session that I went to and Councilman Box went to the other, which had to do with navigating PFAS litigation. And Michael Stagg was the attorney with the law firm that's based out of New Orleans, had a lot of great information. I'm listening to that recording again. I'll be following up with our legal counsel on that because he had a lot of very, very good information, but also good information for our residents. The roundtable discussions were excellent. There were a total of 11 questions. I was in a group of 8 municipalities. I was the 9th municipality. We had Saraland, Jasper, Opelika, Scottsboro, Ozark, Moody, Muscle Shoals, and then we had a latecomer from Selma that came in and sat with our group, and then, of course, Irondale. And we discussed various topics. For instance, how are you using your ARPA funds? What about your opioid settlement funds? What are you doing as far as, what are some practical ways that are helpful in managing your budget? I've got a sheet because I was the one that recorded everything. They wanted me to do it. And it's very small, but I will be sharing this with the rest of the council as well as with the public, so that you know what it was that we were discussing and what we had 2 mayors in our group as well as 6 council members. What were they saying in our table discussion? Because this is where we learn from one another. Really great discussions. And because we've got a lot to cover between now, I'll go ahead and close for now. And thank you, Council President.
Thank you, ma'am. Councilman London.
Thank you, Council President. Thank you all for being here tonight. Just a few things. Our first year inaugural season, youth baseball season is over for the Irondale community, but the travel baseball and softball is still happening on Saturdays, and they're still looking for volunteers. Anybody want to work concession stands and hang out and maybe eat a hot dog or hamburger, maybe even some candy or whatever. They'd love to have you. So we're looking forward for you volunteering for that. And also, I just want to mention this. If you're a city council, whatever, you get this municipal journal from the League of Municipality. And I was looking through my new journal on page 14. Irondale is in the municipal journey, and this goes all across the state of Alabama. And we were spotlight for the Economic Development Academy. In this book, it shows a picture of our new municipal complex construction. It's got the citizen engagement picture in here. It's got the mural from the Irondale Citizen. It's got a picture of the entrepreneurs. Even got the jazz festival here. Got a ribbon cutting. I'm even in here. So that's what I'm really talking about it. I'm really talking about it because I'm in here. We got the Publix grocery store ribbon cutting and the dog park ribbon cutting. But it's a great article. Man, that's exciting me to see Irondale for the first time. Since I've been on council, we have been a spotlight in this magazine. This thing goes across all of the state of Alabama. So I want to say thank you to all the mayor and the council and everybody who support the city of Irondale. You're a big part of this. You're a big part of it. No matter what the negative is, there's somebody that's watching the city of Irondale do great things. And I want to say thank you to all of you for being a part of what we're doing. And lastly, talking about this basketball game, this trophy over here, which I don't know why it's over there, and I don't even want to look that way. Okay. Rod, I'm gonna look at you while I talk about this basketball. It's okay with you? You're married the 3-time.
Do you want me to bring it closer?
I'm also the 3-time free throw champion. Yeah, I don't think I've missed yet. In 3 years, I haven't missed a free throw yet. If it hit the rim, I don't count it. Yeah, so I'm working this thing pretty good right now, man. I'm doing a good job. So not to hold you long, but I also played a little bit, Rod. I haven't played in 10 years. I had to show these young boys that I still got it. I choose not to play. I still can play, but I choose not to play because I love my knees, I love my ankles, I love my Achilles. You couldn't tell it. Yeah, I had to show them young boys that old man still got it. But it was a great time. I always enjoyed a great time. And I think the kids, I think the students enjoy it more than we do. And so it was a good time. Next year, y'all come on out. I'm going to be in better shape next year. I'm going to go about 30 next year. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Council President Bobby?
Yes, ma'am.
I just want to piggyback on Councilor London where he was talking about Irondale being featured. Irondale was one of the first municipalities that signed up for the Economic Development Academy. And we had a member of the CDA, Paul Saucier, Councilor Sims and I, that attended these sessions. And we got a lot of very good information from various people throughout the state. And what they're trying to do is let other municipalities know about what we've learned and how is it benefiting the city of Irondale. And I was, many people were coming up to me and saying, we're thinking about joining the Alabama Economic Development Academy. What do you recommend we do it? And who do you recommend that we have attend it? And it was great. It was very, very good to have that engagement going on with the other council members that have still not signed up, but I think they're in their 3rd year this time around. And they're wanting the rest of the municipalities to see how it's benefiting the municipalities that have signed up. It's really a great article, and I'm going to try to shoot pictures of it and put it on Facebook so that everybody has a chance to read it as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'd like to add something too, Council President.
Let's go.
The initial, when Councilman Carr read, the initial speaker that I referenced a few minutes ago gave some high accolades to one of our counselors
Oh,
here.
yeah.
I didn't mention it earlier because I didn't want his head to get too big about it, but he actually was called out by that initial speaker, Council London. He said that an interview he had with you had been one of the things that helped him develop the new program, or not the new program, but modify the program he had and develop the speeches that he's given this year.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
All right, John. Councilman Sims? You good?
I'm good.
I'm good as well.
Let's get on. Let's go.
All right, let's go. All right, we find ourselves at a place looking for any public comments to the council on non-agenda items. Comments to the council on non-agenda items. Yes, ma'am.
Good evening. I'm Judy Wilson, 3510 Belmont Road. To continue from last time I was here, I was talking about giving away free plants and flowers out of our yard. Just to lead off with, this is the oak leaf hydrangea that's blooming in our yard right now. They grow wild, but you can transplant them. They're very, very hardy. So I still have an offer open if you want one free or two free or whatever, just so you might have to dig it up, but it's not hard. That's still an offer that's open to my neighbors and friends in Irondale. I have a question about the last meeting. The gentleman was giving a report about the city audit, and I was wondering if there's any information yet available to the citizens to be able to read that online somewhere. Do you know?
I'll defer to, after the meeting, we'll talk and we'll set expectations.
Okay. I looked online and all I could find was 2016 and 2018. And that's a few years ago. But I really would like to know, because in reading about it, it states how, it not only tells you about the financial health of the city, but it also gives recommendations maybe that would help the city. Maybe things they could add or deduct from what they're doing currently. So I thought that was really interesting for us lay people, to know, because I don't know all of that. And I appreciate all those who are serving, volunteer, or they run for office or whatever. And even though we don't always agree on the outcome of decisions, I applaud those who vote the courage of their convictions and just stand firm. That's all I say. And also I want to thank my councilwoman, Cindy Cuellar, because she does a deep dive in things. And I know a lot of people say, oh no, not that again. But I appreciate it, and I think a lot of us do. Because I know my finances in our home are very important. We're retired. And it's important where our money goes. And if I'm making a mistake, or my husband, I need to know about it.
Thank you,
And
Ms.
I may
Judy.
not appreciate it at first, but in the long run, I will.
Thank you, Ms. Judy.
Thanks.
Any other comments on non-agenda items? You coming up, mister? Okay.
Carrie Johnson, 1504 Monticello Road. I'm going to take my glasses off so I can read. My comments are intended for Councilwoman Cuellar and are related to last meeting's budget and audit discussion. I and many others watched in horror at the last council meeting as one of your District 3 constituents who has been so manipulated by your campaign of disinformation and lies all but stood up and accused the city auditor and the mayor of colluding to commit fraud on the city's financial audit repeatedly. Is this really the path you choose, to divide and destroy Irondale, trying to convince us with your fictitious numbers that the mayor and city clerk are engaged in nefarious accounting practices? Do you honestly think that you are more qualified to speak to the state of the city's finances than the two people who do it every day? Having reviewed your handouts from the last meeting, I'm not sure I'd even trust you to give me back correct change for $1. It does not make you look credible
Order.
to come into council chambers twice
Point
a
of
month
order,
and
Council
grandstand.
I've called for order. She has her time.
It does not make you look credible to come into council chambers twice a month and grandstand against everyone else on the dais and talk to them like they're too stupid to understand how a budget works. It only makes the already long meetings even longer and unbearable. Rather than admitting you're wrong, apologizing, and making an effort to do something positive to move the city forward, it seems you would rather fester in your bitterness and hate and allow it to spread like a brain cancer throughout the community. It's a choice. Choose better, not bitter.
Point of order, Council President.
You have a comment?
There is decorum, proper decorum. We're covering that with Robert's Rules of Order. And nowhere did I ever accuse the auditor of colluding with the mayor, nor did I ever present any information as factual.
Fair enough.
These comments are out of order, and I ask that people stop doing this.
They were not out of order. We take the good
Decorum.
with the bad. There was no vulgarity, so I allowed it, and she respected her time.
We're going to be covering Robert's Rules of Order, and that's one of the point of orders.
Understood?
Thank you.
All right, do we have any other comments on non-agenda items? Going once, going twice? Right on. All right, moving on into any reports from any boards or non-council committees. Any reports from any boards or non-council committees? All right, moving on. We're going to go ahead and get into the deliberation phase. I'm going to blame a short agenda on the lack of the presence of the mayor. That's meant to be a joke, not anything insulting. Let's see here. We're going to go into getting into our recommended consent agenda. Resolve that Resolution 2025 R97 repeals the drug and alcohol-free workplace policy located in the City of Irondale Employee Manual and adopts the substance abuse policy attached to the resolution as Exhibit A. I believe we have Rod here to speak on this. Would you be so kind?
Yes, I mean in general, this you do have a 37-page document, and I know our previous policy was a little bit shorter, but in order to make sure we're just up to date on current law and to update how it reads, I mean sometimes when things are written back in the 80s and 90s, the language is a little bit out of date, and there have been some changes in the federal statute as it relates to commercial drivers, and we just wanted to make sure that our policy aligned with that statute. But other than that, the main sentiments of it are the same. If there is an accident, there's going to be testing. If there are new applicants, there are going to be testing. We've updated the language as it relates to the medical review officer so that that's clear, and to give a clear delineation of who is responsible for what and how that medical information is actually treated.
Fair enough. Thank you, sir. Councilman London, any questions for the gentleman?
Yeah, I did have one question, Rod. I think it was on G1, talking about the designated city official. I think it was on G1. No, hold on. Page 3. Yeah, when it's talking about the, well, maybe that's not page 3. Hold on. I think I lost my stuff. Let me find the page. Go ahead, Council Wheeler. Let me find my page.
I'll come back to you.
Okay, thank you.
Councilwoman Cuellar, any questions for Rod?
Yes, Rod, I have a few questions. Let's start with page 6 on item D. The document talks about city physician. Do we know who our city physician's going to be? Is this something that the council will need to authorize an agreement with a physician on an as-is needed basis? It refers to city physician.
Well, yeah, I recognize that. Typically with your EAP, with your employee assistance provider, we do have a medical review officer in place, and there is a physician that is available. And so in that language was contemplating that we already have contracts in place for that. And so we would most likely utilize that if that were necessary at the time.
All right. Moving on to page 8, where we talk about accident or incident. It says any employee who suffers an on-the-job injury that may result in a workers' compensation claim will be subject to a drug screen or breath alcohol test or both under the city drug and alcohol testing procedure. And I looked at this and I said, well, gee whiz, what if an employee slips and falls on icy, wet sidewalks? Are they going to have to take a drug screen or breath alcohol test?
Yeah.
They're out there walking and they slip and fall.
I hear you. I think it's a good question, but if we are talking about workers' compensation, we are required to test them. So because if they're going to make a claim for it, because under Alabama law, you do have the ability to deny a claim if somebody's under the influence of a drug and an accident occurs on city property. So it's there to protect you.
Okay, all right. Moving on to page 9. On number 3, in the middle of the page, it talks about confirmed laboratory test at the time of a work-related injury or death. And I underline the word death. If an employee, for some unforeseen reason, fatally dies while working, is the city going to request an autopsy to learn more about what caused that death? Is that what we're saying? A laboratory test? But the city employees died.
So let's be specific. I think sometimes we refer to sentences. I'm looking at paragraph 3.
Yes.
Could you begin? You have the benefit of highlights and referencing. Could you read for me or point me to exactly where you're talking to? Is it
Yes,
the last
the
sentence?
middle of number 3 where it says, under Alabama Code, subsection 25-5-51, Esquire, no workers' compensation benefits will be paid to any employee who tests positive for drugs or alcohol in a confirmed laboratory test at the time of a work-related injury or death. And I'm thinking, if someone's at work and God forbid they have a fatal heart attack and they die, are we going to request an autopsy?
You're not required to request an autopsy.
Okay.
But the specifics where you're referring to, we're taking that straight out of the code. And so the reference here is that if there is someone who was under the influence at
But
the
we have
time,
no idea. They just
regardless
died.
of it, if they die and if they had a medical issue where there was in fact medical testing that did occur and that was made available to the city, then of course you could then make a decision based off of that. But typically when it comes to autopsies, that's not something that we would initially talk about, but there are some references in the statute. I'd be happy to go back and look at those and
Okay.
provide you with that if you
Very
like.
good. I've got a few more, but
We're going
my
to roll
time
on
has
to
expired.
Councilman Box for a moment. Thank you.
Sure.
Councilman Box?
Yeah, I'll kind of piggyback on Councilwoman Crowder's question there. Having dealt with workers' comp for over 30-something years, and in the case of a death, it kind of depends on what you're talking about. Just so, for instance, worker falls from a 30-story building, strikes the ground. Obviously, there's death there. Big question was, they drew blood, or they actually had the blood there, tested the blood, and he actually died from a heart attack. Didn't die from the impact. So believe it or not, those small things in there, Councilman McCullough, make a difference.
They do.
So
That's correct.
having that verbiage in there allows for not necessarily an autopsy, but on the way they will sample the blood. They'll do several things to look. Did he fall because of alcohol or drugs? Did he just trip and stumble and then died from a heart attack on the way down, or died from fear? That has to do with what the city might have to pay to, or the city or a contractor in this case, might have to pay to the families based on OSHA complaints. So a lot of the verbiage in there to a very educated person like yourself that though does not deal with work comp every day has a lot of legal points to it that are behind all this.
Thank you.
I know you have several other questions. I'd be glad to piggyback off those if I can be helped.
Councilman Sims?
No, thank you for everything you explained so far. I think it's pretty straightforward. And I have no questions at this point.
Thank you. In regards to my comments on it, thank you for putting this together. I understand if this is passed, there could be some discounts in regards to our workman's comp and everything like that. So we look forward to a cost savings aspect from that. Councilman Box, you nailed it there. I was nodding in agreement with you. And then, also the liability possibility and stuff like that, limiting that. So thank you for those comments. I appreciate that. Other than that, I really don't have anything. I'm just looking forward to the continued conversation. Councilman London, are you ready to?
Yeah, just on G1, you talk about the designated city official. You got the notation there about city official will ordinarily be the human resource manager or person as determined by the mayor, except where it's required by law that go to reported to position for analysis. Would that be city clerk or just anybody he designates?
It could be. So there are confidentiality requirements when we're talking about medical records. And so we have to make sure that if any information is disseminated, that it meets HIPAA. And so we're mindful of that. And so whoever that might be typically is the human resources manager or the person over human resources or whoever their supervisor is, which would include the mayor. So that's why it was written that way.
Okay. All right. Thank you. That's all I have.
Any further questions, Councilman London?
Yeah, that's it.
All right, Councilwoman Cuellar, are you
Yeah,
asking
they're
for a second round?
Yes, please. There's just two more. On page 10, Rod, item Roman numeral 11, that's there at the top. Excessive cravings for water, street, or sweets. I'm not a diabetic, but I do know that diabetics do have this. Will we take that into consideration before we ask them to take a drug test?
And so perspective is you are referring to what is the section 4, which is evidence of substance abuse.
Yes.
Beginning on page 9. And so what we did here is when I look at it, I sort of did a cross analysis of other policies that I've seen and some of what tend to be the common symptoms that may occur or are seen by persons. And so in an effort to give our employees sort of an understanding perhaps of some things, just a basic expectation, these were just some items that were listed as helpful. They're not hard. They're not meant to be hard and fast. It's to give our supervisors as well sort of some tools of things that they can also look for as they're
Okay.
trying to implement this
All right.
policy.
I was just thinking about diabetics.
Absolutely.
Last page on page 22.
Okay.
Number 2 talks about establishing a drug-free awareness program to inform such employees. And this is for our legal. Can we use our opioid funds for this? We're establishing a drug-free awareness program. Can we use our opioid funds for this to establish this drug-free program?
So you've asked questions that are twofold, and placement is important. So in this policy, we have this certification regarding drug-free workplace, and this is typically the type of certification that's going to be included with grants, or if a grant calls for, we've got this certification in place. We're referencing the federal statutes that talk about controlled substances, letting them know that we're going to be mindful of it. And typically you're going to pass that when you do update your drug policy. From the perspective on the opioid funds, so each opioid settlement has specific requirements on how those funds can and cannot be used. I think our recommendation before was that if there is going to be some sort of use, that we would have a discussion about it and we would be happy to provide an opinion at the time. Talking about it in generalities, maybe not. It just
Okay.
depends on what you're going to do.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anybody else need a comment on the second round, or are we good?
No, I'm good, thank you.
All right. Do we agree to leave this item on consent?
Yes.
Yes. Outstanding. Item number 2, resolve that resolution 2025 R98 authorizes Mayor James D. Stewart or his designee to execute a service agreement with the Studio by the Tracks, Inc. in the amount of $20,000 from the FY 24-25 discretionary fund of Mayor James D. Stewart Jr. for the provision of services to adults in the city of Irondale with special needs and to create a community and career path for those individuals. I know Mayor Stewart's not here to introduce this item. Lee, is there anything you would like to say about this item in particular? Do you know the spirit behind it or anything? I have an idea. Okay. I do know that Studio by the Tracks was impacted by a grant that was kind of clawed back from the U.S. government. It was a $50,000 grant, I believe. So my leap is that I believe that Mayor Stewart's trying to help the organization make some of that up that was taken away from them. Obviously, a fantastic organization. I don't know if you've ever done your Christmas shopping there or anything like that. We always try to go buy some paintings and stuff like that, but they just do some great community work. So that's what I know and some assumptions I'm making. Councilman London, do you have any questions or comments?
No question.
All right, Councilwoman Cuellar.
No, other than thank you so much for giving that explanation.
Thank you. Councilman Box.
No, thanks again for the explanation, and it is unfortunate that some of our Facebook users had thought that the city had some kind of hand in getting that grant revoked, which I'm glad for the pure explanation of that. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Sims.
No questions, and I'm good with it being on consent.
Do we agree to leave this item on consent?
Yes.
Yes. All right. Item number 3, resolve the resolution 2025 R99 establishes the municipal board member training guide for use by citizens appointed to serve on a municipal board by the Irondale City Council. Councilman Sims, this has got your name on it. Care to introduce?
So I pretty straightforward, I feel like. We ask for volunteers for city boards. We put them on city boards, and then we kind of let them go. And so I feel like we should probably give them, again, this initial guide is just really a rough draft of guide. I guess, I mean, just kind of tips and tricks. Hey, the purpose of the meeting, here's, how to run a meeting, stuff like that. And I just feel like giving them a little boost when they get going can't hurt.
Fair enough. Anything else?
For now, that's all I have.
Okay. Councilman London, any questions or comments?
Well, just comment, first of all, Councilman Sim, thank you. And I think we can go a little further after this. I think you and I talk about it a little bit. Once we put them on the boards, maybe we can get someone from the state to come in and really train them on what to do. And I think that's something, really train all our boards people. I think that's a great idea. So thank you for bringing this up.
Thank you. Councilwoman Cuellar?
Yes, there was only one amendment that I wanted to make, and it wasn't meant to be a slight or anything on our council president, but basically it's coming from the viewpoint that the council appoints and approves the board members. And so if we're going to make revisions to it, the council should be involved in those revisions as well, because we are the ones that do the appointing and approving. And so I would like to make it city council. And then looking at the actual municipal board and commission member training guide, there was one section on Robert's Rules of Order where helpful examples and key phrases there under section 5, point of order. Looking at Robert's Rules of Order, they do state such as an infraction of the rules or improper decorum in speaking. And I would like to have that added so that it's clear what is meant by someone who calls for point of order. This is what Robert's Rules of Order says, such as an infraction of the rules or improper decorum in speaking. And lastly, there is a section that I think is very helpful because this actually comes from the Robert's Rules of Order site. And I think it would help the members, board members. Let's see, we'll go, got 3 that go this way and then 1 that will go to our legal. She is our parliamentarian. And it's section 6, parliamentary procedure, productive meetings. And what it says is very short. Parliamentary procedure is the best way to get things done at your meetings, but it will only work if you use it properly. Number 1, allow motions that are in order. Number 2, have members obtain the floor properly. Number 3, speak clearly and concisely. Number 4, obey the rules of debate. And number 5, most importantly, be courteous. this comes from Robert's Rules of Order, and I would like to amend it to where we add this because I think it will help board members when we're having meetings. Here are some ways to get things done at your meetings. Those are my comments.
Okay. Councilman Box?
I think it's a great idea. The more training individuals can have, the better. Naturally, you don't want to spend a whole lot of money on training for a volunteer board, but you do want them understanding what they're doing. So appreciate Councilman Consens putting this together. Councilman Quayler reviewing it and looking over in our legal department, and I don't have a problem with her adding that if Councilman Sims doesn't. But yeah, I think we should all learn more about Robert's Rules of Order. I'm glad the citizens' engagement helps people in that realm as well. Help them understand.
Does that conclude your comment?
It does, sir. Thank
Okay. Councilman Sims?
I need to not say
If you want to respond.
But so the training guide itself, I mean, we're approving the resolution. Well, we're going to be voting on the resolution, not the training guide. The reason I put council president or his or her designee and the city attorney is because dealing with documents at work, when you've got to wait weeks or months, I just felt like it was more administrative to tweak. Like if there was just like maybe it gets printed out and there's an error in it or something, we shouldn't have to wait 2 weeks to have the whole council vote yes or no because, we missed a period. It just seemed excessive. And so I just figured, and plus, I mean, I just didn't think it was something that needed to come back before the council every time we improved it or tweaked it or maybe got some insight from the league because they haven't come back to tell me if they've actually got something that exists already or not yet. They were all up in Huntsville. But so that's the reason I had just, I just felt like if the city attorney and the council president and or his or her designee kind of updated it, fixed the sentence or something that did not need to come back before everybody. Just seemed not useful to have to wait weeks for us to have to do that in an open meeting.
Does that conclude your comments?
Yeah.
What, let me reset this. What area, and I'll take this from Councilwoman Quayle or Councilman Sims, what area did you just talk about?
That was number 3 on the resolution, the resolution. Any future revisions to it?
Page 1 of the document, section 3?
No.
The actual resolution.
Oh, okay,
Council
gotcha. I
President.
was so busy in Exhibit A, I was like, what are
Yeah.
you talking about?
No, it's the resolution itself.
Copy. And so your proposal, Councilwoman Cuellar, is
Is
to put the
have the
city
city
council.
council. And it's not often that we're gonna make revisions to a guide. That doesn't happen. That's why we have our city attorney to help us put it together.
I understand. And then the other question on section 6.
On section number 6, on the guide itself, which is on page 2, number E, under section 5, add the wording such as an infraction of the rules or improper decorum in speaking.
So you just want to add that to
Yes.
section E of 5.
Yes.
Can you live with that, Councilman Sims?
I mean, as long as the city attorney looks it over and thinks it's worded
Comes right
properly.
from Robert's Rules of Order.
Establishes
And
a-
then, right under section 5, add section 6, what I just handed out to you, and then make section 6, section 7. I had no problems with the rest of it. But I thought section 6, which came from Robert's Rules of Order, is keeps it simple, it's to the point, and it will help the boards
Thank you.
in getting things done.
I'm going to use the remainder of my time. Councilman London, what say you?
Whatever. I'm
Okay.
ready. Yeah.
You're Swiss on the deal? All right. I know Councilwoman's Cuellar's stance. Councilman Box, what say you?
Councilman Sims brought the resolution forward.
Okay. And Councilman Sims, do you prefer for it to be,
Actually, I was still speaking.
Oh, I'm
but
sorry, I
thought
apologize.
I thought Councilman London was adding something, so I.
No, it says for the resolution. I'm gonna, you know,
So
Okay.
back to my comments on it. So
Yes, sir.
I appreciate Councilman Sims bringing the resolution forward. Councilwoman Queller brought out some minor adjustments that if Councilman Sims doesn't have a problem and legal doesn't have a problem, I don't see where they hurt it. So those are my comments.
what say you, Councilman Sims?
Well, again, the way the resolution's written, we're just approving the resolution. We're not approving the actual guide because I didn't think that the whole guide needed to be approved by the whole council. But, which I already explained. But I mean, I would not be opposed to these addition to the guide as long as, again, the city attorney looks it over and thinks it's fine.
Okay. So you're
But I
fine.
still think it should be just city attorney and the council president and or designee, just for speed and efficiency purposes.
What say you on that point, legal? Around the way he's got council president and designee.
On item number 3.
Yes, ma'am.
That is actually up to the body. You know, I do see that it would be more efficient to do it that way, but it could certainly be done the other way as well from a legal basis.
So in a moment of an emergency or something like that, where we have to, maybe something crucial's up and we need to get a quorum together or something like that, that we could use that at that moment, correct? Am I reading that correctly?
Basically, what this says is that any change to the actual training guide has to come back in front of the city council, which
Got it.
I think is to Councilman Sims's point, is that, you know, that would cause a delay. So
Okay.
that would be a policy call for you all.
Fair enough. So, shall we move this to regular? Should we amend it and keep it with 3? Councilman Sims, I'll defer to you on this.
I mean, I'd like to keep it the way it is.
You'd like to keep it the way it is. The introducer cares to keep it the way it is. Box, do you agree to keep this on consent or move to regular?
My comment would be on this, that I don't see where it would hurt to add verbiage to Councilman Sims' points that basically says the changes would come before the council unless an emergency situation is in play where a decision would be required within X amount of time. Then it can be done by the council president and the city attorney, because there may be some things that the council president decides that's an emergency, but other members of the council might have liked to have input on that. So I think we can have the best of both worlds if we just agree to tweak things a little bit here.
Fair enough.
I concur.
Okay.
With what Councilman Box is saying.
Okay. Councilman London?
I'm gonna go with the body.
Okay.
I can work either way with me.
We'll just move it to regular and be done with it.
Okay.
All right. All right, perfect. And then the 4th item on our agenda is a public hearing. We'll go ahead, we will go into that public hearing after. Sorry, I accidentally answered a spam call. I thought I was resetting my timer. That's fantastic. Now I'm really going to get a lot of calls. Fantastic. All right. We'll go ahead and move into the public hearing once we get to that item organically. That being said, do we have an approval of the form of the agenda?
Make a motion, we approve the form of the agenda, moving item number 3 to the regular agenda.
We have a motion.
Second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, outstanding. That being said, we have an approved agenda. We would take any comments on agenda items only except for the public hearing. Yes, ma'am.
My name is Gretchen Thiel, and I live at 2205 2nd Avenue North in Iredell. I think as far as the testing of people if they fall or they have an accident, I think if it were left up to the mayor's discretion to decide whether this was going to happen and that was going to happen, there might be an opinion of someone else that would maybe say that the mayor was biased. And I would think that a blanket rule should go with for all employees, so that There's no, why was that choice made? Everybody should be treated exactly the same because that way there's nobody questioning why that choice was made.
Thank you. Any other comments on agenda items only? Going once, going twice? So, all right, that being said, since we finished our comments on agenda items only, if we could go ahead and move the consent agenda for approval.
Make a motion, we approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Motion, second, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. That brings us to item number 3.
I make a motion that resolution 2025-R99 be approved with the following amendments. To number 3, that it would state,
Well, we went through the public hearing.
What was that?
no, we're on number 3.
We're on item number 3.
Councilman
We're on the policy around the municipal board training.
I see what you're saying.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Continue, Councilwoman
That it
Quayle.
would use the verbiage that Councilman Box, where approved by the city council. However, in case of an emergency, the council president is authorized to meet with the city attorney to authorize those revisions. And then on the training guide, that we add the language on E of section 5, such as an infraction of the rules or improper decorum in speaking, and that we add section 6, the handout that I've given to all of you, as well as our city attorney.
Question.
Yes, sir.
We're just approving the resolution and not the training guide.
We're approving the resolution. It doesn't necessarily specify Exhibit A
Yes,
in the resolution. Am I speaking accurately?
yes.
Gotcha. Understood.
So,
So the training guide goes
The
back
whole
to the
point.
city attorney for those changes she's talking about.
okay. So the training guide goes back to the city attorney, which will then come back to the council.
Correct.
Okay, so just,
No, that's not it.
It would be more efficient if you all just approved it tonight rather than
Right.
actually having to bring it
Exactly.
back.
Okay.
Everyone-
Gotcha.
Not that training guide. no?
Yes, it is not attached as an exhibit to the resolution. However, it can be, changes can be made to it. It just won't be an exhibit.
Okay.
So is there a vote on it?
I
Is
made the
moving the
motion.
resolution with the amendments preferable, or just moving the motion in general? Since it's not listed as Exhibit A.
I would move with both, just so that it's completely clear in the record what has been approved for the actual, guide.
So
is
you
what
would
I
like
do.
us to not only vote basically on the resolution, but also the contents of the guide?
Yes, I would actually attach that into the motion itself, just so that we're completely clear as we all look back what was approved.
Okay, understood. If you would
You
like
want
to
me to
continue.
repeat it?
I do have a question. Does they have another question?
Okay, let her go ahead and introduce it. We'll pause before a second, Councilman Linden.
I make a motion that resolution 2025-R99 be moved with the following amendments. Number 3, and any future revisions to it must be reviewed and approved by the city council. However, in cases of emergencies, the council president and city attorney are authorized to approve these revisions. Training guide, page 2 of the training guide, section E, point of order, that we add, such as an infraction of the rules of improper decorum in speaking, and that we add the content in the handout that has been given to the city attorney, as well as all council members. That becomes section 6, and all else remains as is.
Pause before a second. Councilman Linden?
The question I have is, we both know two things, right? At the same time. So what if we don't want to approve her amendment to the resolution, but okay with the guide? So are we about to take these separately?
No, it's one.
You can't, I don't think you can do both, because we may not be
It's one.
In that case, I would actually bring it back. I would bring the actual guide back as amended. Therefore, that way you would separate them.
That's,
Or you could have another resolution where you actually approve the training guide, and we can just, give it a number on the floor.
Council
Okay.
President Spivey, during deliberation, the body was okay with these
He
amendments
brings a
to the
valid
guide?
question.
I got it. That's
He
my
brings a
question. That's
valid
my
question because we want to get this right from Jump Street.
Right.
So
Because Councilman Sim doesn't want to make that change
I understand.
in the resolution.
Right. I understand. He wants to adopt the policy, but he might not necessarily want to adopt the
That's
change.
correct.
Okay, gotcha. So let's be clear on this real quick procedurally. So are you recommending that we now kind of pull it apart and we adopt the policy as one resolution and we adopt the guide in whatever form it may live or die in as a second?
I can't, because I can't recommend what would be best. I can just, say that if you don't have consensus upon both items and you would want to vote them separately, then the way to do that would be to separate it out and to have the resolution, concerning the actual, document itself be separate from the one where you implement it.
Because
that makes sense.
So adopting because every time we make an amendment, we would have to come back and re-adopt the policy instead of re-adopting the amendment to the guide. Is that the point?
No.
No.
Okay.
The
You
first,
would be
the
authorized.
resolution itself actually establishes that there is a guide.
Correct.
And the actual rules for that.
Correct.
And so I did not attach as an exhibit the guide itself because it was contemplated that I think by Councilman Sims that this would just place a guide in place that could actually just be crafted. And so, since there is a concern over what the guide looks like, then, I would think at that point you would need to come back and actually adopt the guide itself separately. And so that could be by separate resolution, or if there were group consensus as to what the guide should look like, it could be done as part of the original resolution which established the guide.
Really make things complicated, don't we?
Yeah.
All right.
One question.
Councilman London.
Sorry. So, because these are recommendations that has to go through a vote in order to change the resolution.
Right.
So once she make her recommendation, she has to get a second.
I
She has to get a majority to go through.
That's what we're trying to
Correct.
do.
And so, what if we put them all together? They both gonna fail at the same time, maybe, or pass at the same time. I think we need to take them separately. We can always come back with the guy. And just deal with what we have on paper right now.
And then craft a resolution tonight to approve the guide.
Correct.
Copy. I know you got this item introduced, Councilman Cuellar. I see the point that's being made. What are your thoughts on it? Do you want to?
If we want to come up with
Second.
resolution.
How about that? Let's just vote.
Councilman
Up or
Sims,
down?
you're seconding her.
Amendments to both.
So we can vote it down, yeah.
This is okay if we just pass it as is, the way it's been introduced with the second, and just forget about the past
Let's
10
just
minutes of
vote
the
on it
conversation.
and then see what
Okay.
happens.
You have a
How
motion
about
on
that?
There's a
the
motion.
floor.
Councilman Sims, you have a second?
Second.
We'll do a roll call. Councilman London,
No.
Councilwoman Cuellar,
Yes.
Councilman Box.
Once again, guys, we're so overcomplicated.
We are so
things. Just for the
overcomplicated.
That's
sake-
why I didn't want the
just for
council involved.
sake of arguments, ladies and gentlemen, we're complicated. All we had to do, if there's a problem with the verbiage.
What
on
say you,
three,
Councilman
take
Box?
3 out. What?
What say you, Councilman Box, yea or nay?
I'm not voting for a training guide at this point.
Okay, so you abstain?
Say it again.
You abstain?
I will not vote for a training guide. I will vote that we establish a training program, but I'm not voting for the training guide as it exists.
Okay,
We'll
so.
go there.
All right.
do you-
So
are
do we
you-
need to amend?
Let's finish the vote.
motion?
So are you
Just-
a no or an abstention?
No.
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 Redress, Council President Spivey.
No, I'm gonna let this thing fail, and we're gonna readdress this. No.
Move resolution 2025 R99 be approved.
We have a motion for this resolution to be approved. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, seconded by Council London.
Right.
Councilman London, what say you?
I make a motion that we amend.
No, there is a motion on the floor
But
that's
we
to be
can,
dealt with
according
right
to
now.
Robert's Rules of Order, we can amend
We,
it to
we
what
have
just
a
has this
motion on the
language.
floor.
Council.
It's
We
been
have a motion
seconded.
on the floor. It's been seconded. Councilman London, you said
I
yes.
say yes.
Councilwoman
You know
Cuellar,
Council
what, yay or
President
nay?
Spivey,
yay or nay? There's a motion on the floor that has to be dealt with.
we have Robert's Rules of Order. Parliamentarian, I ask that we apply Robert's Rules of Order, which says when a motion is made and it is seconded, we can go on and make an amendment to it.
And you did, and it failed.
No, we're doing it now.
Now I
did
made
it.
a new
No.
one.
All right,
Here we go, guys. Once again.
legal. I don't even know where to go with this anymore. I mean, my brain is literally coming out of my ears on what started as something simple recommendations. So,
Council involved in the guide.
Council President Spivey, when I made the motion was made and the body was good with doing it for both.
We just voted that down.
Then Councilman London said, well, let's separate it. So I was not allowed to separate. I was told, well, you just need to do it just the way you did it. That's not fair. I'm allowed to introduce it with just the
I seconded it.
resolution, amending the language in number 3.
all right, hold on a second. There's
a
where
motion.
you stop the vote. Is she allowed to stop the vote?
No, there's a motion.
There's
that
a
has been
motion on the
seconded
floor
on
that
the
has a
floor.
second. Councilwoman Cuellar, what say you? Yes, no, abstention.
If you look at Robert's Rules of
Yes,
Order,
no, or abstention.
the answer is no because it's not
Okay,
right. It's
fair
not
enough.
Following Robert's Rules of Order.
I'm literally asking for guidance from legal. She's telling me to proceed. You're saying that we have a motion on the floor. It must be dealt with.
That has been seconded. and so
Absolutely.
therefore-
Councilman Box, what say you? Yay, nay, abstention.
I just still want some clarity before I vote, if that's okay, Council President.
Yes, sir.
So if we pass this resolution as written, then we are also passing the guide as written. We are not.
Just a resolution.
So when it says number 3, the content of the board member training guide and any future revisions to it must be reviewed and approved by the city council. That is part of the resolution. So we either take 3 out or we pass it. If we pass it, 3 passes. Now, I got what? It
Currently,
says a board member, the content of the board member training guide and any future revisions. If we pass this resolution, we're passing item 3 with the resolution.
As
as
it's
it
written.
is written on there without
written,
any
without the
changes to it.
As the resolution is written and as the board member training guide is written.
No, the board member training guide is not attached as an exhibit.
Okay, so we are clear that Councilman Sims' proposed board member training guide is not part of this resolution.
Correct.
So we are simply saying, we're gonna have a training guide, and that's all we're saying.
That's all
We're not gonna say we're having a training guide and we're gonna go by this procedure, that procedure. So we're gonna have to come back and visit again, right? To get a training guide.
No.
See, Councilman Sims' proposal is saying that we will pass this training guide
as
as
is.
written.
No, I'm saying
No.
the council president and the city attorney or his designee and the
Yes,
city
see,
attorney
that's-
will approve the guide.
That's what I was saying.
So that we don't
You
have to
didn't
do all
allow me
this when we want to
do it
change
both
3
ways.
words.
That's just not right.
So, legal. We're passing the resolution. To my original point, the guide is not listed as Exhibit A. Are you I believe you recommended that we come back and pass the guide at a later time.
That was under the changes
Okay.
that were
Under her.
actually set
The
out.
changes I was making, Council President,
So
now we can't, if you go with what he's saying.
we've got a motion on the floor. Do we have an understanding of what we're actually doing? Do you, Councilman Box, or no?
Yeah, I understand exactly what we're doing. We're giving
Okay.
the council president more authority than is due because it's taking any authority away from the council. I agree with the council president having emergency authority.
Yes, sir.
But not the council president having blanket authority, which this resolution will establish. Is that correct, City Attorney? If we pass this as it is, and that's the way Councilman Sims intended, and I appreciate him doing this. This is awesome. I'm not saying his intent is nefarious. I'm just simply saying, if we pass it like it is, we're saying that the board member training guide and any future revisions to it would be reviewed by the city council president, and here's her designee, the city attorney, which means we're giving a blanket approval authority to the council president and the city attorney. That is not appropriate, except for the cases of emergencies. So if we want to specify it, let's give that, let's make provision for it, to pass it in case of emergency, but let's have the council have input on the training guide. Because if the council does have an input on the training guide, then neither do the citizens have input on the training guide, because only the council president and his district have it. I don't mean to be trouble, but guys, we're having a fight here just because Sims wants it and Councilman London wants to side with Sims. Cindy wants to add certain things to it that may or may not, excuse me, I'm talking right now, needed. But the baseline of this is too much power to the council president, blanket overall. Let's modify that, but Sims is right. Let's vote on this, but we either need to take 3 out, if we voted up, understand this, that the council president and the city attorney have the authority from this point moving forward until it's changed to make amendments without the rest of the council's involvement.
You still have a live motion.
You still have a live motion. Exactly. I was trying to remember. So it's
I
with
vote
you.
no.
Okay.
Yes.
No.
Thank you.
And I'm going to go ahead and vote no on it because I respect what you're saying.
Thank you.
Okay.
I make a motion that resolution 2025-R-99 be amended, amend number 3 to state must be reviewed and approved by the city council, and in case of emergencies, the council president and the city attorney are authorized to make revisions.
Who defines an emergency? How do we define an emergency?
When there is a change in
another hour.
statutory law, when there's a change in statutory law, which there hardly
It's just a
ever
training
That
guide.
would not, this is just a training guide. This
Right.
is
It's
not,
supposed to be
this
super
is like
simple.
something that just basically tells people how to
Right.
basically
And,
act. So
well,
there
so-
won't be any laws
All right.
applied.
I'll
to
just
it
table it
anyway.
and we'll do it
So,
administratively.
hold
I mean, come
Hold
on.
How often are training guides revised? They
Who
aren't.
knows? I mean, leave the
So
back.
that's why it's.
Is there a
good
motion on the
with
floor or
the
no?
amendment. Go
Is there a
ahead.
motion on the floor?
On the floor.
She's got a motion on the floor. Motion. Second. Now the revisions you said, are you restating all of your previous revisions or just the one that Councilman Box is concerned with?
Only for the resolution, the training guide has to be separate.
Okay.
And he seconded.
Motion second, Councilman London,
No.
Councilwoman Cuellar,
Yes.
Councilman Box,
Yes.
Councilman Sims.
No.
And I'm going to go no on this. We clearly are a little in over our heads on this. We
Council
need to
President
rethink this.
Spivey.
No, it's done. It's done.
The body doesn't agree. I think that this is a good thing that we all probably want in some iteration or another, but we are clearly not ready to move forward with this. All right. That being said, well, we need to go ahead and I guess I'm going to ask for a motion to table this. Do I have a second to table it?
Second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. All right. All right. I make a motion to move into a public hearing.
Second.
Motion second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, public hearing ordained that ordinance 2025-10 rezones the property located at 1799 Grants Mill Road, Irondale, Alabama, 35210 from A1 agricultural to C2 commercial and grants a conditional use for an automobile dealership to be located on said property. I know this has Mr. Cochran's name by it, but I understand we also have a presenter, so I'd love to hear from you, sir, if you would come on up and let us know what you're trying to do. While you're on your way up, you'll probably recall this property was recently annexed into the city. Like many properties annexed in the city, they just slapped an A1 on it, and now we got to deal with it. So if you would be so kind, sir.
I don't know if I want to follow that, but it's
Come on.
the property originally, I think, working with the city attorneys was originally part of the right-of-way with Grants Mill Road when the I-459, and it was somehow got zoned agricultural. we can't build the Subaru dealership unless we have additional parking. This parking lot is for this dealership, and that's what we're planning on doing that. So I understand it was zoned agricultural. We can't put a parking lot if it's still zoned agricultural.
Okay. Councilman London, any questions for the gentleman?
Question.
All right, Councilwoman Cuellar?
No, sir, when we annexed the property, I had asked that question. You stated you needed some additional parking space for your automobiles. Thank you for that explanation the last time.
Councilman Box?
No, I'm good with it. Thank you.
All right, Councilman Sims?
No questions. Thank you.
Okay, I have no questions as well. In regards to the rezoning, do we have anyone, and you can have a seat, I guess, if we're good. Thank you, sir, for your time. Do we have anyone in favor of this rezoning? Anyone that wants to speak in favor? There, fair enough. You got another one in the back. All right. Anyone that wants to is not in favor of this rezoning? No one not in favor. Okay, that being said, I wish if I could get a motion to end the public hearing. Motion
Second.
closed. We have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. If we could go ahead and get movement on ordinance 2025-10.
Make a motion, ordinance 2025-10 be read.
Second.
Motion second. All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Motion to suspend all the rules to prevent immediate consideration of ordinance 2025-10.
Second.
Motion seconded by Box initially. Roll call. Councilman London?
Yes.
Councilwoman Cuellar?
Yes.
Councilman Box?
Yes.
Councilman Sims?
Yes.
And myself, yes.
Make a motion that it be approved.
Second.
Motion second. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. That concludes things. We don't have an
Motion to
executive
adjourn.
session. Motion to adjourn by Councilwoman
Motion.
Cuellar, seconded by
Yes.
seconded by Councilman London. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. Thank you all very much for coming out this evening. I think we all